You're listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. The show that gives pastors and church leaders the clarity they need to protect their people, property, and ministry.
Welcome back to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. I'm your host, Ron Wadley with Insurance for Texans. We help church leaders protect their people and property with wisdom and clarity. Today's episode is for church leaders who wonder what their church's insurance actually covers. Sarah is sitting in the main office of her community church, staring at a challenge thicker than any hymnal. Sarah was recently appointed to the board of trustees. In her professional life, she's a powerhouse, but sitting here at her church, she is feeling intimidated by the stack of insurance papers sitting on her desk. It feels expensive, full of jargon, and she can't help but wonder if it actually covers her church's unique activities. For Sarah, this building is more than brick and mortar. It is full of lifelong memories. It's where she was married, where her children were baptized, and where she sees her community find hope every Sunday. As a trustee, she takes her fiduciary responsibility seriously. She knows that hoping for the best isn't a strategy. When a Texas thunderstorm comes through town or a sensitive legal issue arises, the church needs more than just a piece of paper in a filing cabinet. They need the promise of certainty that good church insurance coverage affords. Like many church leaders, Sarah is tired of the transactional nature of the insurance market and doesn't want another generic quote. Sarah wants someone that she can have an actual conversation with who will explain to her what her church's insurance covers. That's how she got connected with us at Insurance for Texans. Our agent broke down what Texas church insurance typically covers and how to understand exactly what her church needs. We start the discussion with a chat about property insurance. First, a church property policy needs to define the different types of buildings. The sanctuary, fellowship hall, and even the parsonage where the pastor lives all need to be accounted for and valued correctly. But here's the catch. A generic commercial policy often has sublimits for things like steeples and stained glass windows. If a storm shatters those windows, a standard policy might only pay a fraction of the cost to repair or replace the item. That is why a church needs specialized endorsements to cover certain high-ticket items. We continue on with a heart-to-heart about insurance payouts. We explain the difference between replacement cost, which buys you a brand new version of what you lost at today's prices, and actual cash value, which subtracts depreciation. For a church on a budget who is expecting a full payout, an ACV payout after a hailstorm can turn into a difficult financial situation. After we have talked through her church's property insurance, we move on to liability insurance next. Sarah understands that serving people and having them in your building week after week introduces complexity and risk. We start with a discussion about general liability insurance. Often called slip and fall protection, general liability is a church's foundational shield against lawsuits involving visitor injuries or property damage. Its most significant benefit is covering the high cost of a legal defense. Next, we moved on to another policy that we recommend for Texas churches. Sarah's anxiety really spikes when we start talking about directors and officers insurance. She realizes that without this coverage, she could be personally sued for decisions that she makes as a member of the church's board. D&O insurance shields the personal assets of elders and board members so they can lead with confidence. We wrap up our conversation with Sarah by touching on other types of liability insurance that protect different types of church activities. Coverage such as employment practices, liability to protect against employee-related discrimination claims, workers' compensation insurance to provide lost wages, and medical expense coverage for work-related injuries for church staff commercial auto insurance for churches who own vehicles, abuse and molestation coverage for churches who minister to minors, and cyber liability to protect a church from the financial fallout of a cyber attack. After we were finished talking, Sarah hung up the phone. She felt a sense of relief knowing what her church's insurance covers. If you are like Sarah and find yourself questioning what your church's insurance actually covers, let's talk. You can contact our church insurance team at insurancefortexans.com. And if you would like a general overview of church insurance, get a free copy of our book, The Promise of Certainty, at thepromiseofcertainty.com. I'm Ron Wadley, and this has been Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance Protecting Texas Churches. Until next time, remember, your church deserves to know what your policy covers.
Thanks for listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance. Until next time, remember, insurance isn't just about policies. It's about safeguarding the mission God has called you to lead.